I would like to introduce you here some of the guidelines where Professor Avasthi and Professor Raj Kiran, their entire team from Administrative Staff College of India, they coordinated very well and they brought out certain safety guidelines where in fact our Chief Electrical Inspector General, Fire Department, Transportation Department, CREDAI and people like us, we are all party to that safety guidelines. So we want to make sure that these EVs are safe. Otherwise what is happening is everybody doing on their own something or other which may not be really safe. So we would like to see that these directives are implemented. It has to come out as a GIVA. We'll also discuss with Mr. Avasthi during the discussions, where it is and other things. Just before that, I would like to tell you some of the challenges associated with this. There are the draft regulations. I would still call them as draft regulations. Yeah, you can probably slide. Our guidelines, even as per IGBC guidelines, we are supposed to have 30% of the car parking, we need to have car chargers with EVSC. There is a new IS also which has been released, IS 17107 for the EVSC, and they have to be tested by ARAI based on these guidelines. So this is one of the things. Normal 15 amps plugs are not supposed to be used, and sprinklers need to be provided in the car parking areas because water is the only thing which can protect from battery fires. There is nothing else what we can do. And whatever NFP, National Fire Protection Association of US says, each vehicle to quench fire, battery fire, it needs around 10,000 liters of water. So that is the reason a hydrant line and a sprinkler is essential. And along with that, our Central Electricity Authority has also issued a guideline to have smoke detectors in every car park area. So these are some of the guidelines that have been added, and also mechanical ventilation or natural ventilation in the basements. This is another important thing. I will also show you, if we don't do anything, this is the way what people are doing it. You can see a lot of loose cables, loose wiring connections, and earthing which is not done properly. This is one of the sites. This is how the scenario as and today, sir. We want to change it and make it as a neat installation. So to that extent, that has to be properly planned. Otherwise, there will be a lot of infrastructure wastage as well as, untidy kind of installation. With respect to basement, earlier our CEIG was telling we can't give approval, but later as a part of this committee, he also given his consent. But the only thing is to follow all these principles. Here you can see the guidelines are, they were all issued as guidelines by Administrative Staff College along with TS Redco, by our earlier Energy Secretary. But the only thing is the government has changed. Now we are looking for a formal order on this. So if you look at it, there are 2-3 types of charging stations. Is a public charging station or a home charging stations. So public charging stations are allowed only at the streets. You can't take them to the basements because they are all high powered capacity, mostly maybe 25 kilowatts and above. So whatever is allowed as and today in basements is only a slow charger up to 7.2 kilowatts. Nothing beyond that is allowed. So whether it is for high-rise building or low-rise building, or it's a new building or an existing building, most of these guidelines have been specified very clearly in the guidelines. So that is what need to be followed. So these are the guidelines. And mechanical ventilation, that is with respect to the other requirements, not only your charger power, mechanical ventilation systems and then smoke detection. These are some of the things which we need to provide because whenever there is a battery fire, sir, unpredictable. Unfortunately or fortunately, we are also going to come out with an article on this shortly. Whoever is interested, we can circulate, where, the worldwide, the research shows that whatever the systems we have provided, they are good enough. It doesn't need anything beyond that. We have a research paper, we'll circulate to you also, recently that is published internationally. They have done a study across various countries, what kind of provisions are being made, especially in basements or above ground installations. So everywhere they say whatever we have given, I think they're all meeting the requirement. Only thing is, public areas like malls and multiplexes and other things, we wanted to restrict and then separate them as a separate compartment. Without these guidelines, if something is planned, we don't know what kind of hazards that can happen. So that is the reason this is better to be followed. And there is always a discussion whether fast chargers or slow chargers. For fast chargers, will be quick in charging the battery, but generally the life of the battery will come down drastically. Because whatever you are supposed to charge in 8 hours, it will be done in 45 minutes or half an hour. So naturally the life of the battery comes down, and also it needs higher power rating. And somebody, even 1 hour, somebody has to wait for 1 hour there. It's not like a petrol or diesel where you can get it filled in 5 minutes. So there people have to wait for almost an hour, which is also difficult. So they have to give it to a services guy. Somebody has to service these things, charge it and then put it back into the parking lot. So that is another thing. And then billing. Billing also, slow charges we can integrate with the home billing or offices billing, whatever it is. And overall reliability, if one is down, the entire system will be down. But whereas here, slow charges, you can have number of things which is not very expensive, that will help a lot. These are different models of vehicles which needs what kind of power requirement. Like Tata Nexon, they look at either 3.3 volt versions. Today they look at 7.4 kilowatt. And there are certain vehicles like Volvo XC40 where they look at 11 kilowatts. And some of the new vehicles, because of the higher battery capacities. So a lot of people say whether this is going to be viable, electricity will be used, whether we have power or not. There are different kind of questions in the country. But the thing is, as on today, this is the trend. Probably plug-in hybrids, once they come into picture, I think are the importance, if they gain importance, I'm sure that is going to be the future, where there will be a small battery and that can be used for local travel, and whenever they want to go outstation, they can run on petrol engine, so that the range anxiety will not be there in that case. One of the issues is demand factors. Why we are talking about green in this particular thing is, what will be the diversity factor when we look at it? Suppose Mr. Badrinath was asking me 500 apartment complex, it needs huge power. Yes, it needs power, but the thing is, just look at it. Even Bureau of Energy Efficiency or Ministry of Power, they have given a guideline. Most of the vehicles they work only, they run around 40 kilometers a day. But whereas a full battery will give you a mileage of around 300 to 350 kilometers. That means you need to do a full charging only once in a week or once in 10 days, or otherwise only topping up of 10 to 15% is required every day. So we can assume that 1 by 10th, almost 10% is the maximum demand that can happen. So we have also got certain characteristics from international, because India, today we are talking in Hyderabad about this large infrastructure with so many car chargers, but nowhere it is there in the world so far. In one of the projects in UK, whatever they have done with 350 numbers, so these are the diversity factors. They are also more or less in line with our analysis of 10 to 15%. It is not more than that. And the another important thing is tariff. So today, residential communities are under category 6 of tariff HT, or otherwise commercial buildings are under category 2. So the government of Telangana has got a separate category, category 9, for the EV charges. If you avail a separate connection, you can get power as low as 5 rupees per unit. But the only thing is, you will have some minimum demand charges. Whereas under category 6, it's a flat tariff of 7 rupee 30 paisa. So that means almost 30% of our energy can be saved by going for category 9 kind of connection. So we had a discussion, even a distribution company was part of the guidelines when they have formed the guidelines. So we asked them whether for the same community will they give 2 types of connections or not. They said anything will be given. You want category 6, they will give for residential, category 2 for commercial, or otherwise category 9 under HT or LT or a separate connection, whatever you need, because the government of India is pushing a lot for EVs, popularity. So that is the reason this is the kind of tariff what is applicable here. So if you have a facility of 300 numbers, the only issue with category 9 is you may have certain minimum demand charges, which is not there in case of category 6. So that may add up, especially when you are operating only 15-20 by providing infrastructure for 300 numbers. So it doesn't make sense. So we need to rationally see how many people are using and how it should be done. So this is another thing. And another most important thing is the transformers, whatever we provide. Unless you look at the losses, you can see here a transformer will have highest efficiency at around 40% loading condition. Whereas if it is not there, suppose you have EVs, there is a separate transformer which operates at maybe around 100% load only for 6-7 hours. Rest of the time it is all loaded 0%. Then your losses itself will be quite huge. So that is why we need to make sure that depending on our load pattern, we need to decide about the transformers, which is working at optimum efficiency, or what we call it as an all-day efficiency. So not only that, when we design a system, something like this, we are talking about 10% as the overall diversity for transformers. But what will happen to distribution system? Suppose in one particular distribution board, all cars are there only on that DB. That gets overloaded. So we need to make sure that they're all loaded properly, they're all taken care of. So these are some of the challenges what we need to look at it. So I'll not go much into that. So this is basically my presentation to just introduce about this. Now I would like to have a panel discussion, a discussion with some of the experts. Professor Avasthi, first question to you. You have what is going to happen further? Are we going to see this as a GO, and what is that?